Hi guys, I don't usually do reaction videos. In fact, I've never done one because my channel has always been about the content Disney puts out or George and reviewing it. It's a review channel, but this one I wanted to talk about because it fucked me off so much. I saw on my Twitter feed, Ruin, God bless Ruin, has caught this, Freddie Prinze Jr. being a cock as usual. Look, I'll say I like Rebels and I like Kanan. Nothing Freddie Prinze Jr. ever takes it away, will ever take that away from me, but Ruin is right. It's like, look who's back from the 90s trying to stay relevant by dissing Star Wars fans. It's Freddie Prinze Jr. He's right. He's doing this for fucking clicks to be relevant again. And the guys he's interviewing, they want to lick his chocolate starfish, right? I guarantee you, I've watched the video, and that's why I wanted to do this video. But you look at the guy in the red shirt with the neck beard, and he keeps cupping his microphone like he's thinking it's Freddie Prinze Jr.'s balls, and he's got this smile on his face. You watch. So I'll go through the video and talk about it, and I'm going to absolutely destroy everything, well, not everything, 90% of what Freddie Prinze Jr. says. Let's see how it goes.
I did a Star Wars cartoon, so even I get hate from Star Wars fans when I'm like, look, dog, you're just mad the franchise isn't aging with you.
Okay, this is incorrect. He's the ball cupper. This is incorrect. Fans aren't mad.
But that ain't how I did a Star Wars cartoon, so even I get hate from Star Wars fans when I'm like, look, dog, you're just mad the franchise isn't aging with you.
See, that's not the issue with Star Wars fans. And what he's doing there is putting the blame that squarely belongs with the creators on the fans. He's saying, you don't like what we're putting out, that's your own fault. And he's going to talk about kids here, but this is not the only time he does it in this video, where instead of saying, okay, that's cool, you didn't like it, it's not for everyone, what he said is, it's your fault, you're salty, you're mad, and that's not what it is.
Right.
But that ain't how it works. The first one was for fucking kids.
Right.
The second three were for different fucking kids, and this one is for kids. You just pissed off that Han Solo gave the fucking Millennium Falcon to a girl.
When did that happen? I've seen The Force Awakens probably 5 or 6 times. I don't remember Han giving Rey the Falcon.
For kids, you just pissed off that Han Solo gave the fucking Millennium Falcon to a girl.
See, what I remember is Rey, Chewie and Han go to the Starkiller base, Kylo Ren kills Han, and Chewie picks Rey up. I don't remember Han giving the Falcon to Rey. Maybe if Freddie Prinze Jr. had the slightest fucking clue what he was talking about, he wouldn't say such shit.
Yeah.
That's it. Because Luke Skywalker's Cinderella.
Luke Skywalker is not Cinderella. This is him saying Luke Skywalker is a Gary Stew, and he's not. Luke trained. Luke suffered. Rey's suffering is what she did to herself. She could have left Jakku. She says in the movie she flew. It's very easy to miss it, but after the first flight scene with her and Finn, when they're talking really quickly, she does say, I've flown before, so I don't mind her flying. But then people say, well, if she could fly, why didn't she fly away from Jakku? And this is what I'm saying. Because she was waiting for her parents to come back. So she made a choice to suffer. Nobody put that on her. That was just her. I mean, you could argue it was her parents or whoever it was that dropped her there, but I mean, she chose. She's clearly an adult, smart woman. She should have picked up the hint by now. I mean, what was she, like 4 or 5 when she was dropped off there, and now she's like 18 or something? in 13 or 14 years, she's still clinging to that. She's still choosing to be a scrapper for a living when she could... She could have Jakku as a base of operations, learn to fly, and then, work on transports or something. But keep Jakku as a base of operations. That way she wouldn't have to live like shit. So everything she does is her choice. Luke, on the other hand, was orphaned, much like Rey, but that's where the differences end, apart from the fact that they live on a sand planet. Luke, he was never allowed to know his dad. He was never allowed to know about his dad because Uncle Owen, I nearly said Uncle Ben, too much Spider-Man. Uncle Owen forbade him from talking about it. We see that in A New Hope. Then the Empire murders Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. So his entire home, the place he's called safe for 19 years, has been destroyed. Rey never suffered anything like that. Luke suffered at the hands of other people, specifically the Empire, but even to a certain extent psychologically at the hands of Uncle Owen. So Luke is not Cinderella, and I think he talks about a wand here.
Or Sleeping Beauty,
Yeah.
okay? He can talk to things that don't speak English and...
Okay. How is being bilingual equal to being Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty? I partially speak German. I used to speak it a lot better when I was a kid. People can understand droids in Star Wars, some better than others. Han can understand Chewie. People learn languages. How does that make him? Because what he's saying here again is that Luke's a Gary Stew, and he's wrong. He's saying there's no justification for Luke speaking more than one language. I mean, he grew up on fucking Tatooine, where Huttese is a common language as well as Galactic Basic. That's two.
Cinderella. Or Sleeping Beauty,
Yeah.
okay? He can talk to things that don't speak English and...
He can talk to things that don't speak English. You see how he's playing to the camera?
understands what they're fucking saying. He gets a fairy godfather instead of a fairy godmother who teaches him how to be the best Jedi in the world in no time fucking flat.
Okay. False. that is a patent lie. First off, Luke didn't get a fairy godfather. Luke had no choice but to go with Obi-Wan because his entire home had been destroyed. His family had been destroyed. He had nothing left, and Obi-Wan was willing to teach him. That is not the same thing as a fairy godmother waving a wand and suddenly the protagonist is all powerful. And this is where The Force Awakens failed with Rey. She was interesting, and we were building up to her being a Force user, sensitive to the Force. And then it was like a light switch where she was just God mode activated. That's not the same thing. Luke, what Freddie Prinze Cockhead here probably doesn't realise is that there's, unlike the sequel trilogy, which just goes Force Awakens, Day 1, Last Jedi, Day 2, Rise of Skywalker, what are we thinking, like a couple of months later? Doesn't matter, but let's just take the first two, a day apart, 2 days most. Yeah, New Hope is year 0. Empire Strikes Back is 3 years later. Now, in A New Hope, Luke gets some training with Obi-Wan in the Falcon on the way to Alderaan. And Luke says, it's like I almost touched another world. That it was the start of his training. Could he do it all? No. He got a bit lucky with the, the probes that were shooting at him and he deflected the blast. But that's because we saw Obi-Wan teach him to let go of his senses and trust in the Force. We see that in the movie. Nobody waved a magic wand. We literally see Luke being taught how to use the Force, how to let go, how to trust the Force, what the Force is. Even in the Marvel fucking comics, they're going on about how Luke reads Ben's old journals. I mean, they're failing with those fucking comics because nothing in those journals has anything to do with teaching Luke how to use the Force, but that's what they're trying to get across. So, no, Luke is not a Gary Stew because he's got a fairy godfather who waved a magic wand and gave him powers. Also, Empire Strikes Back is 3 years after A New Hope. That's 3 years where Luke had to train everything that Obi-Wan gave him. 3 years, which is why when he's in the Wampas cave on Hoth, he's able to use the Force to grab the lightsaber. But because he had no one to teach him throughout those 3 years, he hadn't really got much better. A bit better, but not much better. But then he goes to see Yoda, and Yoda gives him some proper training. Now, that's something that's very masterful that George did in Empire Strikes Back. Nobody knows how long it takes to travel in light speed. And so there's this wonderful thing where it comes across as like a couple of days in the Falcon, but it comes across as like months on Dagobah. And that's a wonderful piece of cinematic trickery, and it's something Johnson could only hope to achieve. Not that he'll get much chances. But the point is, Luke worked for his abilities in the Force. He wasn't given them by a fairy godmother. So he's wrong. Freddie Prinze Jr. is wrong.
And everybody, like, I know more about the Force than most people because
Fuck off.
Dave Filoni taught me and
Also fuck off.
George Lucas taught him.
Fuck off. Right. Yes, George did Clone Wars with Dave Filoni, but Dave Filoni picked up some bad habits from George. I believe Pablo was the one tasked with bringing Maul back in the Clone Wars show. Because I've read where it was an interview with Hidalgo where he said, while they were making the show, George said, bring Maul back. And Hidalgo, and this is the only time you'll hear me praise him, said correctly, he's dead, I can't. And George said, I don't care, make it happen. See, that's the kind of bad habits Filoni's picked up from George. You know, seeing George and Hidalgo working together, that kind of direction is exactly why we have deliberate time travel in Star Wars now. Deliberate time travel in Star Wars shows a total misunderstanding of the universe. You cannot have deliberate time travel. You can have accidental time travel like Riptide and Cross Current, where somehow you're dragged through time. But you can't have deliberate time travel, because if you have characters that can access time travel willy-nilly, then what's to stop them going back in the past? What's to stop the Emperor, who had the time travel thing, by the way, what's to stop him going back in time and killing Luke and Leia as a baby? Or collecting them, taking them back to when Anakin was a kid and training all three of them to be dark side users, you know? This is why time travel does not work, and it can be used to fix anything. And the problem is, Filoni has used it to fix anything. He wrote himself into a corner when he left Ahsoka's fate unknown, and he didn't know how to bring her back. Hence the Deus Ex, time travel. Maul being alive, it's never really explained how he survived. They just brought him back. See, George clearly saw the comic that was in the expanded universe, where it was a what-if story. It's called Infinities. It's a section of non-canon stuff where they say, oh, what if Vader fought Maul? And they'll write a little story around it, like Tekken or something, and then they'll face off. And that's the main draw of the issue. And Vader did indeed fight Maul in this. But he saw it, and he went, I like that, make it happen. Filoni's picked up these bad habits, and now this is what's happening.
And all these videos fucking flat. And everybody, like, I know more about the Force than most people because Dave Filoni taught me and George Lucas taught him.
See, the problem with that is, if Dave Filoni taught him, he's taught him incorrectly. Because he's been taught incorrectly. So this guy is like... If Dave Filoni is like the red-headed stepchild of George Lucas, this guy is like fucking banjo kid from Deliverance, the grandkid of George Lucas, Deliverance boy.
And all these video games have
Also, like, I've been reading the expanded universe, both the books and comics, since the 90s. Plus, I've been reading the books and comics in the new canon. I think I'm in a pretty good position to judge how the Force works. And do you know what? Even if I don't agree with how the Force works, I'm entitled to think that because I'm a consumer. I'm allowed to say this is crap.
people up on what the Force is. Like, Luke's skill doesn't dictate whether he wins or loses. And all these video games have fucked people up on what the...
What video games? What's he talking about? Video games?
To be the best Jedi in the world in no time fucking flat. And everybody, like, I know more about the Force than most people because Dave Filoni taught me and George Lucas taught him. And all these video games have fucked people up on what the Force is. Like, Luke...
What video games? What is he on about? Get off the fucking crack, Freddie.
Luke's skill doesn't dictate whether he wins or loses.
Luke's skill doesn't dictate if he wins or loses.
Right. The Emperor doesn't dictate whether he wins or loses. The Force dictates who wins or loses.
Wrong. Wrong. And I'm going to tell you why now. Number one, let's say this is true. Then why bother training? What's the point? Seriously. Freddie's the one who said it, not me. But what's the point in training? If the Force is going to automatically balance out anyway, why does anybody bother? Whatever they do isn't going to make any difference. The Force is going to do it all for them. Deus Ex, typical Disney writing. See, this is the difference. In the OT, Luke had to work. He had to struggle. This is why he's not a Gary Stew. In the Disney era, it's like, oh, don't worry, the Force will do it, everything's okay. And he pretty much admits it in a minute as well.
Based on balance. And here's the quick version on how to explain it to all these people who fucking think they get to decide.
I do get to decide. I read, I watch the shows, I watch the movies, I get to decide whether it makes sense or not. Hate to tell you that, Freddie.
In the first if you want to do this like time-wise, Palpatine, you would say, and Yoda are the smartest too. Palpatine clearly smarter because Yoda was blind to the power of the dark side and the seduction of Anakin.
I think he means more adept at using the Force and not smarter. I would expect an actor to be better at using his words, but okay.
So let's talk about the seduction of Anakin fucking Skywalker for a second.
Okay. So far, what he's said so far on this point, I can agree with. And now, watch how this guy is just thinking about fucking sucking on Freddie's cock. You watch, he's holding Freddie's balls.
If the Emperor is just... about the seduction of Anakin fucking Skywalker for a second. If the Emperor is the smartest dude in the universe and knows that the Force dictates this, if he kills who he sees as a rival, Anakin, then he knows the Force is just going to fucking correct that because the Emperor knows this. These are George Lucas's words.
Okay. Yeah, I can follow his logic. He's only partially right in the Disney canon, not in George's canon, because in George's canon, people had to work.
Words not mine, so fuck you if you disagree with me.
And he also just said...
His words not mine, so fuck is gonna fucking correct that. Because the Emperor knows this. These are George Lucas's words, not mine. So
see, I don't believe that. I do not believe that. Number one, Disney bought Star Wars in 2012, Rebels started in 2014. Almost the moment Disney bought Star Wars, they pushed George out the door. So I do not believe he's ever heard George say those words. I believe he's heard Filoni say that George said that. Or something like that, and he's just paraphrasing it, as you do sometimes. But then it becomes a game of Chinese whispers. And how true is what George... How accurate is this compared to what George actually said to Filoni? Because here's the thing, if it's about the Force balancing, he's talking about the prophecy. Okay, the prophecy of the Chosen One. Now, we all know what it is. But that was about the prophecy of the Chosen One, not the prophecy of how the Force will fix everything. You see, this is not what George wrote in any of his trilogies, or in the fucking Clone Wars, or in the Clone Wars micro cartoon show. This is not George's Star Wars. Saying George said the words doesn't mean he said the words, and it also doesn't mean people are writing content for Star Wars now in the way George intended for those words to be interpreted. This just it's stupid. It's like, I don't speak fucking Chinese, right? But if somebody told me a word in Chinese and said it means hi, and then another Chinese person told me that's not what it means, would I be right just for saying, screaming and shouting, oh, but that first Chinese person told me, so he's right? Of course not. That first Chinese person could have been fucking playing a joke on me, you know? Just saying, screaming and shouting, someone said this, does not make you right. It's also hearsay, but this isn't court.
Fuck you if you disagree with me.
No, fuck you. Fuck you. People are allowed to fucking disagree with you. We're consumers. We pay money. We're allowed to disagree with you.
These are George Lucas's words, not mine. So fuck you if you disagree with me. Straight up. This is information, not affirmation time. Straight up, man. So the Emperor knows that. So instead of killing Anakin, what does he do? He seduces Anakin to double the strength of the dark side. So then what does the Force do?
Balance.
It balances us. How?
In his little scenario, yeah, I can follow his logic. His scenario is wrong, I'll explain in a minute, as well as what I've already said.
It gives us twins, Luke and Leia. Two and fucking two.
Let's just go over his maths there.
It gives us twins, Luke and Leia. 2 and fucking 2. Balance.
Okay, so let's review that. Luke and Leia. Vader and the Emperor. 2 and 2. Balance. So we're not going to be including Obi-Wan, Yoda. Hell, Snoke's a Disney creation, so's his fucking character, so we've got to include Snoke. Oh, don't forget Maz Kanata. So Maz is in the middle, but she leans towards the light, but she's in the middle. So let's go over that maths. On the dark side, we've got the Emperor. That's 1. Freddie. Pay attention, Freddie. Vader. That's 2. 1 plus 1 is 2, Freddie. And Snoke. I nearly forgot his name because he's been so fucking irrelevant in the sequel trilogy. That's 3. Now who do we have on the light side? Luke. Leia. Obi-Wan. Yoda. Just right there is 4 against 3. That's not balanced. That's unequal. Anyone who understands maths will tell you 4 does not equal 3. But then you add a little bit, a quarter, maybe half a point for Maz, since she leans towards the light. So that's 4.5 against 3. In Freddie Prinze Jr.'s world, and that's what his entire argument is based on, is that 4.5 equals 3. Disney logic. This is how Disney are fucking writing their movies. I said in one of my reviews about how they've got fucking Tourette's. They're just throwing shit at a dartboard and just naming things like table, dildos, and making it into movies and books. This is the kind of logic. 4.5, 3. Balance. Trust me, George said 4.5 equals 3. Fuck off, Freddie.
And if you look at the movie through just that simple perspective,
the wrong perspective, so why would you? But yeah.
You will not only know why every single bad guy loses and every single good guy loses, you'll know who's going to win and lose in the next fucking movies.
No. It's a hero's journey. That's why we see a hero rise, we see the hero fall, then we see the hero rise and do what he was supposed to do the first time round. This is why the Green Goblin was right in Raimi's first Spider-Man movie. He says, the people love to see heroes fall, and he's right, but that's only in the middle, like in, say, Empire Strikes Back, or Attack of the Clones, you know. Luke got his arm chopped off Sorry, his hand chopped off. Anakin got his arm chopped off. But then they kind of rose up. Anakin's was a bit different, but Luke's matches the hero's journey. So, no, Freddie, that's not why we see that. Waving your hands around like that and screaming and shouting doesn't make you right. 4.5 still does not equal 3, and that's not why. He's treating it like it's a cyclical thing, and it's not.
You will not only know why every single bad guy loses and every single good guy loses, you'll know who's gonna win and lose in the next fucking movies.
That's because Disney don't know how to fucking write.
I can tell you, I just don't want to wreck it.
I can tell you too. Rey's gonna win. She fucking lost this time. She lost against Luke. She didn't lose against Luke. She lost with Luke. She didn't. Okay, she kind of matched with Kylo Ren, but still, it doesn't even matter at this point. It really doesn't matter, because this will be her third arc in the hero's journey. She will rise. It's literally called... It's got Rise in the fucking movie title. I mean...
People bitch about the dumbest shit like it's archetype characters.
I'm sorry, it's what type characters?
People bitch about the dumbest shit like it's archetype characters.
I think he means archetype.
This is George Lucas's words. There is no Jack Bauer in Star Wars. That character doesn't exist. It's not Han Solo. Han Solo's a reluctant hero, okay? He's a reluctant hero. That's the archetype. Darth Maul...
The archetype.
Reluctant hero, that's...
So far, he can't do maths and he can't speak English, and we're supposed to trust him about the Force, which is kind of sciencey. If he can't do maths and he can't do English, I'm not trusting him with fucking science.
The archetype. Darth Maul, who everybody wants to win, and he's everyone's favorite because he looks sick and he's great in the video games.
He does look cool.
Fuck you guys. He's Sisyphus. He is born to fail.
Check out the guy in the red shirt, cupping his balls.
He is born to fail. Learn your Greek mythology like, I don't know, George fucking Lucas did. He's cursed to roll a boulder up the hill only to have it roll to the bottom again every single time for eternity.
Yes.
That is Darth Maul's quest.
Yes.
He's in on the joke, you guys. He knows it. He's just cursed to live that life. Again, not my opinion. George Lucas's.
Do you know, I can agree with that. He's not supposed to be a key player, which is why George should have kept him dead. Sure, he should have done a lot more with him before he killed him off, but just bringing him back to be a Sisyphus type of character just doesn't work.
So go fuck yourself if you disagree.
Why? Why are we not allowed to disagree? George, you try and get one fucking truth from George Lucas, and it's really, really difficult because different people have heard different things, and he said different things to different people over so many years. What is it, like 40 years now? 50 years? Something like that. There's so much, and again, this plays into Chinese whispers, where nobody really knows. And again, George didn't tell him shit. Waving his arms around, shouting, giving it all that, sitting there with that fucking beer tap thing, which I like, you know, I like that. That's very cool. It doesn't make him right. Shouting doesn't make you right. Being right makes you right. 3 + 3 makes you right. 4.5... 3 = 3 makes you right, I mean. 4.5 = 4.5 makes you right. 3 = 4.5 does not make you right.
You don't get to level up in the Star Wars world. That's a fucking video game. There's no such thing as a gray Jedi. Qui-Gon even says...
Let's go back.
Video game. There's no such thing as a gray Jedi. If you disagree, you don't get to level up in the Star Wars world. That's a fucking video game. There's no such...
Then what's training? See, he still hasn't answered that. Why does anyone train in the Star Wars world? oh yeah, to get better, which is basically what leveling up is in a game. You acquire new abilities. You get better. You get, if it was like Zelda, you get more stamina, better magic. In this case, more control of the Force, more hearts. Maybe not, but still, that's what training is. So he's wrong.
Thing is a gray Jedi. Qui-Gon even says, I turn towards the light because it's there. There's no gray. There's no, that's pretend fan fiction
So, what's Maz then? Because I counted her as half towards the light, because The Force Awakens makes it clear that she doesn't get involved with the light or the dark, but she does tend to help out the light side. Force abilities, clearly trained, but she's between the light and the dark. Oh yeah, it's a grey fucking Jedi. Dickhead.
shit, which is cool.
Oh, also,
There's no gray. There's no, that's...
he's going to be eating his words when Disney writes in a grey Jedi, because it's going to happen one of these days. In the expanded universe, we had Lannery Brock, and literally all of the I can't remember what the year is called, Dawn of the Jedi era books and comics, they were all grey Jedi. They used the light side and the dark side of the Force, and that's what Ashla and Bogan were, the two moons on Typhon. Ashla represented the light, Bogan represented the dark, and whenever a Jedi leaned too far towards one of the sides, they would actually have to go and meditate on one of the moons to bring themselves back into balance, because if they didn't, they could cause force storms on Typhon, which were really dangerous. Sorry, Freddie. Okay, fine, that's in the expanded universe. But, I mean, should we talk about Ahsoka? She's no Jedi. Says it in the show. Says it in the show. That's fucking Filoni's show. If she's no Jedi, and she's no dark side user, she's no Jedi, she's no Sith, but she's trained. That would make her a grey Jedi then? So we've got Maz Kanata and Ahsoka so far, and that's just two. Ahsoka was in his own fucking show. It's his show. She was greying. She was a Jedi in the Clone Wars. In fucking Rebels, when she came back, is when she was grey. Fine. Okay, maybe not grey, because she doesn't use the dark side, so maybe not. But Maz, nobody knows with Maz, so he can't say Maz isn't. And let's not pretend he knows what's going on in the minds of people like Fuckface Johnson and Cunty Kennedy. You know, they don't know.
That's pretend fan fiction shit, which is cool.
But that's what Disney are writing. In fact, The Last Jedi was literally stolen from fan fiction. So, to say fan fiction, you can't say this because it's fan fiction. We all know at some point it's going to end up in a movie or a book because it's stolen from fan fiction. Or hell, if your name's, what's her fucking name? Delilah Dawson. She steals from fucking movies. She's done it in 2 fucking books now. So saying just because it's not been in Star Wars yet means it's absolutely fucking impossible. It's a stupid argument in my opinion, and I don't agree with it when people who dislike The Last Jedi say about, what's her name? The purple hair bitch, about her hyperspace move, because just because something hasn't happened so far doesn't mean it can't in the future. You know, it's like the Chosen One hadn't happened before, but eventually it did. Or Death Stars hadn't happened before, but eventually they did. Things happen for a first time sometimes. Now, I've talked to people about the mechanics, you know, the physics of Holdo, that's her name, her hyperdrive move, and, you know, it's still up in the air. There's no actual proof it wouldn't work, there's also no actual proof it would work, but the fact that she did it and people saying she can't do it because it's never happened in Star Wars before it doesn't work.
There's no gray. There's no that's pretend fan fiction shit, which is cool, but don't try to canonize it because it doesn't work.
Hang on, look, he's right. We shouldn't try to canonize stuff from fan fiction, and I've been saying for ages Disney should be moving away from the expanded universe, because just copying it is bad. They're doing a really bad job copying it. So they have a blank canvas, and what they should have done is created new stuff, but that still matched in line with everything George wrote. And instead what they did was make sure nothing lines up with what George wrote, and absolutely bastardize the expanded universe. I mean, are we not allowed to say that shit? We're not allowed to canonize stuff, but they can. They can literally steal from the expanded universe, and it's okay.
And I'm never gonna buy it, ever. Star Wars is for fucking kids. Sorry. I'm sorry, man.
That was incredible.
He had to get one last fucking ball cup in there, didn't he?
Star Wars is for fucking kids. Sorry. I'm sorry, man.
That was incredible.
It wasn't incredible, it wasn't beautiful, it was 100% completely wrong. I mean, I don't know where these people... You see these two fucking cunts here? They are clearly not even thinking, because they're just thinking, who are they from? All Things Comedy. Do you know what? They're just thinking, likes, let's get the views. Look, 24,145, and it was uploaded 19 hours ago. Do you know what? They don't care, and they're not... They let him go on the rant because it'll get clicks. That's the only reason they let him go on the rant. Because, I mean... Literally anyone who knows Star Wars would tell you Obi-Wan's alive, Yoda's alive. We see them both in the OT. That means for 19 years there were 4 lightsiders. And don't even get me started on Leia. Just don't. So, the dumb is strong with Freddie Prinze Jr. I could not agree more, Ruin. But then, of course, we get shills like this. Brian Young. I have to say I love Freddie Prinze Jr. I hope we can get him on Full of Sith again to talk about Star Wars sometime. But you don't talk about Star Wars. What you do is lie about Star Wars. You lie and you twist stuff to suit your theories that Disney's trying to put out. This is the exact opposite of what Sherlock Holmes said you should do. You shouldn't have very little evidence and then build a theory around it. You should have as much evidence as you can. And this is the problem. Each time a movie's coming out, people like Brian Young are embracing it and going, oh yeah, I love it. Because they don't really have anything else to say. And then when they go on these podcasts, it's just bollocks, because nothing in these movies adds up with anything else in any of the movies or the books or the comics. So then they have to lie. Like, take this, right here, I have to say I love Freddie Prinze Jr. But why? Like, I literally just completely destroyed everything Freddie Prinze Jr. said. And that's using canon. Not even using the expanded universe or fan fiction. I used canon and maths. So why is Brian Young... obviously it's because he's a shill, but... I fucking hate these people. Fucking hate Disney. And here's the thing. We've just seen Freddie Prinze Jr. Tell people to fuck off because they disagree, because they don't like something. And it's the way he twisted it around to be the fans' fault. Like, you don't like it because you're old. You don't like it because you're misogynistic. And I know I never said misogynistic, but when he's saying about Han gave Rey the Falcon, he's saying if Han gave a guy the Falcon, we wouldn't have a problem. So he's turning that onto fans and blaming them for being misogynists. He didn't say it directly, but that's what he's saying. So it's fans' fault they don't like something because the movies didn't grow with them. It's fans' fault they don't like the movies because they're misogynists. And here's another one. Pablo Hidalgo constantly insulting fans. We all know how Ryan does it, but Hidalgo, here's the thing, I ain't one to take away anyone's right to a hate boner about anything. Get it hard and veiny. I wish I could do a Mexican accent. Throb with rage, but if you're atting your way onto my timeline, that means we're on the same bus, and if you start rubbing it on my leg, I'll ask to change seats. What a fucking bizarre thing to say. And do you know what? He's allowed to say shit like that on Twitter. How is it we're not? We get banned for saying shit like that. Why is he allowed to? There's Just Richard. Hello, Just Richard. I remember replying to this. Oh yeah, what happens if he's told no when he's asked? Like, I love the way he said that. If you start rubbing it on my leg, I'll ask to change seats. Not I'll punch you in the face. It's just, I'll ask to change seats. Clearly, Pablo's not against a bit of cock rubbing. Now, the problem is, with this, it's another case of fans, creators insulting fans because they disagree. And do you know what? He kind of represents Star Wars. There's a whole bunch of them that represent Star Wars. There's Kathleen, there's Bob, there's Pablo, there's Dave Filoni. Sadly, George doesn't represent it anymore, but we know he counts more than all of the others combined. So when somebody asks him a question, this is what he's gonna come up with. Like, look, if somebody comes at him out of nowhere and he's like, "You're a fat fucking bitch," yeah, by all means block them. But if somebody comes to you asking a question, don't be a dick to them. They're asking because something's unclear. Why not just be nice to them? And I said this in my Han Solo review. You know, Hidalgo's job, and he will deny it, he changes his answer depending on who's asking and what the weather's like. But his job is executive producer of the story group, which means he's in charge of the lore and the stories produced in Star Wars. The problem is the stories and lore they produce quite often contradict each other, and people have to ask because there's like two contradictory things, and it's like, well, if this happens, how can that possibly happen? Like, I'll give you an example from Freddie's video. If the Force will balance anyway, why should anyone bother to train? The Force will just do it all, and that's Disney's Deus Ex thing there. They got no idea what they're doing, so it's just, hey, the Force will do everything. But you ask him that, and you get comments like this, instead of saying, well, you know, hang on, you might find out, or, you know what, that's a good point, maybe we can write that into a story or something. Maybe we could write a TV show about it, or something. But the thing is, he's so defensive. He just takes it as a personal attack on him all the time, even when it's a valid question. Like, I asked him if he's not responsible for ensuring that all the lore matches up, who is? Is there anyone? And he got so fucking defensive. It was unreal. I couldn't believe what a fucking man baby he was being. Man baby, there's another one. Can't take criticism. His movie makes no sense. Fans point out why it makes no sense. We're man babies. Do I even need to talk about these ones? I mean, that one right there's a fucking hypocrite. We don't need white males telling us what to do. Who are they led by? A white male in a dress. Yeah, that's logical. That's social justice warrior logic right there. This is insulting. People are allowed to disagree, and they're allowed to think a movie or a book or a comic is bad, and they don't need to be told to fuck off because they have that opinion. And that's why I love this picture so much. I love that. That's brilliant. That's just... Fuck you, Shills. We got the last word in. I love that. So, yeah, I'm going to leave this video here because it's really dragging on now. And usually I script my videos. This one was a reaction, kind of. I just talking about it as it came along. But yeah, Freddie can't do maths, can't do English, Can't do science. Feels like he should lecture everybody. And that pretty much sums up the problem with Disney, Star Wars and its fans. They have no idea what they're talking about. They just seem to have Tourette's, say things, make movies out of them, even if it makes no sense to. Then they get defensive. It's just beyond belief. So, thanks for listening if you made it this far. And talk to me on Twitter. Bye.